bride of Christ. And the dudes are all like, I ain't nobody's bride. It's an analogy, man, relax. And I write about this in my book, but I was studying some Jewish culture stuff because I had some Messianic Jewish friends down in West Palm Beach where I used to live, and they were kind of explaining some things to me. And it blew my mind that, how many of you guys have ever taken communion at church? I see some of y'all? Yeah, like grape juice, crackers. Some of you drink wine. Ooh. I don't know why I said that. Because you're on a college campus, it's illegal, okay? The point is, that little grape juice and cracker, the wine and the bread, when Jesus said, eat my flesh and drink my blood, we don't hear it. But during the Last Supper, when Jesus said, this is my cup, take and drink it, all of you, what the disciples heard was literally, will you marry me? At which point, all the disciples probably like turned and looked at Peter. You do it, man. You're always jumping into stuff. See, in that time, if a guy was gonna marry a girl, he'd go to his dad and he'd say, yo, Dad, I wanna marry this girl. How can we make that happen? And his dad would go to the bride's dad and they would agree on a bride price. Now, you girls, don't be offended. The bride price was the payment that the groom had to pay for the opportunity to ask her to marry him. She actually could receive the bride price and then turn him down. Some of you are like, ooh, I like this Jewish culture thing. Yeah. Well, after they agreed on the price, it's like, it'll be 42 camels for a bride, okay? I don't know why he sounds like, give me 42 pod racers, Anakin Skywalker. Anyway. But they'd agree on a bride price, and then the groom would get in a room, and the bride would get in the room, and they'd get all their relatives around this little table, and the groom would put a cup in front of her, and he would pour it, and he'd fill it with wine, and he'd slide it across the table, and he'd say, this is my covenant with you, take and drink it, all of it. At which point, she'd be like, you smell like Hamas, and she'd slide it back and say no. If she was gonna say yes, she didn't even say yes, she just took the cup and she took a sip out of it, and that was her way of saying, I do to you. At which point, she went back to her village, and he went back to his village, and they didn't see each other for the whole engagement period. Why? Well, she was just getting ready to look good, do what she's got to do, get things ready to be married to some other dude and move her whole life over to his family. And he was building an apartment. It's called a mansion. That's right, I hate to burst your bubble, but the word mansion in Aramaic doesn't mean a big, huge house. It means apartment. And it was actually an apartment, an addition built onto his father's house, which was called an insula. So generation after generation, they would build on and build on and build on until their family structure would take over a whole block. So he's building an apartment for them to live in. The only way they could communicate during the engagement time was through his best man. He was the text messenger. He'd take a little note from the dude, go over to her village and say, this is what he says, check yes, no, or maybe, and then come back to his town. She didn't even get called by her name during the engagement period. She was referred to as one who was bought with a price. Do you see where any of this is going? Any case, the groom every day would be working on the apartment, saying, Dad, is it done? Because he didn't get to decide the day, the time, or the hour that he was going to marry his bride. He just had to keep working on the mansion, keep working on the mansion. Till finally, only the father was the one who got to decide when it was finished. And he'd look at his son and he'd say, yo, go get your girl. And he'd gather up his groomsmen, and they'd come into her town unannounced, and they would blow a bunch of shofars, which were ram's horns. Like, let's all do that. Like we're. Actually, no, that was a bad idea. Don't do that. And he'd come in, and she'd be like, oh my goodness, what's that? She'd open up the windows, like, oh, it's time. And she'd get married. They'd go down the aisle, and they'd get married and make little rabbis live happily ever after. Right? So, rewind the tape. Jesus is sitting at the Passover feast, celebrating the Israelites' escape from Egypt, escape from slavery to their idolatry, right? And at the third cup, scholars think it was the cup of salvation. See, there were 7 cups of wine in the Passover feast. The third cup was called the cup of salvation. And traditionally, when they got to that cup, the rabbi wouldn't drink out of it. He would pick it up, he'd pour the wine in, and he would set it aside, saying that is for the coming Messiah. So Jesus takes the third cup and starts filling it with wine, and he goes to drink it. All the disciples are like, oh man, we about to kick Rome's booty, man. We're going to do a political revolution. Let's go. And then Jesus throws a big old kink in the thing, and he's like, this is my covenant with you. Take and drink it. At which point they're like, say what? And they're like, all right, let's see how far the rabbit hole goes. Let's take the pill from Morpheus, man. And they take back and they drink it. And then they're like, what's now? And Jesus starts to use this language that they would have understood. He said, hey guys, we're going to be apart for a while. But don't sweat it. My best man, he's coming. His name's the Holy Spirit. He's going to interpret messages between me and you. Now, in this time, you're not going to see me, but your name's going to be changed. You're going to be called one who is bought with a price. And now listen, I know this is going to be tough, but you're not going to know the day, the time, or the hour. In fact, neither the Son knows the day, the time, or the hour, except for the Father. But I'm going to my Father's house where I'm going to prepare a mansion for you. Now, don't sweat it. Listen, keep looking, keep watch, because it's coming like a thief in the night. And when my Father tells me it's time, I'm going to bring my groomsmen, the holy angels. They're going to blow their shofars, the 4 trumpets from the 4 corners of the earth. I'm going to come home, and I'm going to take you home to marry you and have you at the marriage supper of the Lamb.